Hello everyone, I am Raghav Pandya and I am a faculty at Industrial Design Department in Avantika University, which is MIT ID Indore. Today I am going to talk about design as a profession, because when I meet lot of new students, aspiring students and their parents, they obviously have lot of questions about design. Like they know about design as a fashion design or industrial design or communication design, but probably lot of parents especially are not very clear about what design serves to the society. So today I will try to make a slight connection between design and profession as a philosophy, and how we designers work, what is our approach when we deal with a problem. So let's begin with a quick journey of design, its connection with human brain, how it works with users and customers ultimately, and let's start. So probably in today's topic I am going to cover design and its philosophies and its theories. I'll start with an example. Like whenever as in part of society we always appreciate things which are beautiful, because it has been said that a life or society without beauty is soulless. It doesn't have a soul. So whenever we see beautiful things around us, we feel extremely visually pleasurable because they make us really happy. I give an example. We see an image on the screen, a house which is old, boring, uninteresting, old colors, probably the walls are not good. The same house was given to a designer, and then the designer has converted this house into a completely unique, pleasurable, and a place which is full of lots of happiness and joy, because probably designers has included a lot of visual appeal. He has incorporated lot of character into the same old boring house, and obviously the new house looks much more better and appealing. This is the power of design. Let's understand. So we as a society, as a human, live in a environment which always have certain kind of individuality, certain kind of beautiful objects. Let's take an example of our houses. We always try to decorate our homes. We always like to buy good things like good dresses, good jewelry, good probably everything we around us we try to make more beautiful. Art, craft and designs are important contributor to make this environment beautiful. So what is design? Is it always about making something more decorative? Is it about making more ornamental? Is it about presenting something in a better manner? Or is it about something like a good presentation, like a good recipe, a good graphic design, or good interiors? So I would say yes, and I would also say no. Because let's begin the story of design. What is design? A lot of people in society think that designers are always the one who create beautiful things, or probably they make good design in terms of furniture or fashion or jewelry. So I would say yes, design has lot of things to do with art, but it has also lot of things to do with science. Design takes elements from both. On the one side, design takes the crafting aspect of art, like when we create a product or furniture or a piece of wearable, like a fashion designers do. Like on the other side, design also takes lot of clues from science, where it takes a lot of problem solving approach, or it takes lot of ideation process, while which is obviously a process of science. So is design all about aesthetics or making things beautiful? No, the design, the purpose of design is more to deal with its strategy around it rather than only aesthetics. Let's understand it more deeply. So unlike art, design is the process of functionally creating something, whereas art is purely intuitive. Design is created for a lot of people who was going to use as an end user, unlike art is created for the intuition of the artist. Probably it is not for the sale, or probably it is not for the mass production. Design always includes its objective, like for example, for which purpose design is been made. it always talks about function, how and in which condition design is going to be used, and the environment or the society. Ultimately, design has to serve to the society. So whenever designers create a design, they always consider the social, cultural aspects of the end users. Obviously, aesthetics comes as an element which is very important, because ultimately, as I have been saying, design always serves with an beautification of the objects. Is design always all about making things more pleasurable or presentable? It is yes, it is also no, because ultimately designers create an experience or an interaction of the users which has to be more natural and complete. Whenever users interact with a designed product or service, they should feel more comfortable while using it. So design should not bring lot of hindrances, problems, or maybe uniqueness in terms of interaction, and a good design is always something which makes people more comfortable while using it. I would like to bring a quote given by Steve Jobs where he says, design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is always about how it works. How to read design, right? So how we can define something is good, something is bad. Let's understand. Design is the process of visualizing and planning products, services, communication, buildings, traffics, anything. It is all comes into design, right? Design always has at the center of pause. Users are always at the center of any design process. So every design is created around user needs, their experiences, their aspirations, their desire. So design is always creating solutions for people. A lot of theory says that design is always problem finding or solution finding. It is not so always. Design can always serve to make society and services better. There can always be a good design, and there can be a further better design which can make a good design into further better design. This is how design is an endless process. The person who creates design is a designer by profession. So people who look into design as a profession are the one who are called as designers. Now it is not only a profession where people earn degrees in design and they become designers. People who find creative solutions around us also can be designers, like people who make beautiful homes like architects, people like engineers who make beautiful roads and products, people who are like chefs who serve up beautiful and delicious recipes, tailors, musicians, narrators, and everyone who is giving us a better and meaningful life, they are serving to design. So let's understand the process of design, because it is very important for us to understand how design actually works. To understand the process of design, we should understand the series and sequences of actions which designers follow when they are dealing with any new problem. In a design process, like designers always involves lot of explorations. They go for research, they try and meet users, they get to know their desires and aspirations, they come back, they discuss upon their findings of the research, then they start thinking about probable solutions which can be made by a company or a group of designers as a solution. Based on these ideations, they create certain directions. These directions are further developed, and then these ideas, which are still raw in nature, are then they are again served for the testing. Based on the feedbacks and input received on this testing, ultimately the last final design is being formulated. Let's see this same process through a chart. So you get as problem statement as a first input to the design process. The design team creates multiple ideas based on this problem so that best ideas can be given to the as a solution to the users. Then obviously they select the probable and potential solution. which can always be tested based on the need, the environment, the functionality, the resources. Upon these solutions, the team builds and selects the final ideas. These final ideas are again evaluated against the brief. Once they pass the brief and requirement, they are being developed into the final designs, and they are then served to the society as a final design solution. So before we understand how these processes work, we should also necessarily understand what are the theories of design. Like as a lot of people connect design as an aesthetical expression of designers, obviously we should understand like where design actually works. So while doing a design, designers always consider the logical approach, and they always consider the creative approach, because something which is to be created by a logical process ultimately has to touch the hearts and souls of the users. On logical side, designers tries to improve a design for identify problems and goals. So there are always defined set of problems and goals in the beginning of a design statement. On creative side, designers always bring lot of creative ideas and emotions while they are generating design solutions. On logical side, the design process is always strategy driven. So there is a strategy, there is a process by which we can map, we can always evaluate a design solution. On creative side, design process is more user centric and emotion driven, because ultimately users are going to use the design. The design process is appreciated in terms of an isolated sequence of stages in logical approach. It is always research and knowledge oriented. It is always predictable and controlled. So there are obviously some pre-decided solutions, I can say. On creative side, research and knowledge as a part of approach obviously go through more judgment and common sense of the designers also. Sometimes we keep all the knowledge and research aside, and we believe purely on our intuition and judgment, because we are also humans who also use products. So designers always work on both the theories. They bring breadth of logical research to make a design successful. They always bring some quotient of creativity and probably I would say emotion, so that design works on both the sides. So where is design? Let's begin with the journey of design. And before we do that, we must learn how to appreciate the design. Whenever we see a product or a service or anything new which we buy, like a mobile application or a communication design or an advertisement or a TV commercial, we immediately make a response or an opinion, like we like it or we don't like it. There is a whole strategy designed by a designer which makes us like or dislike something. So let's take a very simple example. Whenever I had to gift something to my friend, I go to a store, I am really confused if I don't know about the taste and likings of that particular friend. I get highly confused because what product he or she might like, I am not very clear. But so that I need someone to tell me about the choices and likings of that friend. Whenever I have to buy a product, something which is an expensive product, I take a very calculated risk, because there is a huge investment involved into it. So I need a guide, like which product is more reliable, which is more durable, which is more cost effective. Same I do when I buy a car. I go and take a lot of inputs. I read lot of user, probably I would say user reviews on online modes. I talk to my family, friends, like which car is best, which suits me, which is more effective on roads, and which is more pocket friendly. So I take a lot of opinions when I make a choice of a product, even as simple as what I should be wearing today in my office. It can be a casual, it can be a semi-formal, or it can be a formal. So I'm sure I cannot wear something which is very casual into my office, because there is always a guideline which tells me which dress I can wear where. So before understanding the concept of design, let's learn how to appreciate design, because once I develop the ability to appreciate design, I would also understand how design strategies work. So it will be really helpful if I learn an ability how I am going to like or dislike something, and if I learn that, I'll be able to become a better designer as a professional. So we must learn who decide what is good and what is bad. It has been written in some book, or it has been known to some people who are very experienced, or everyone like a normal people also know this. Let's understand. So in the next session, we will understand the concept of senses and emotions. You must be surprised why we are talking about senses and emotions, because senses and emotions are the vehicles for us to immerse into design. Let's understand. So let's build an analogy between senses and design. I'll give a quick example of few images, and I will try to connect those images with our responses. That will make this presentation more understandable. So for the first series of images, I am showing here something which is edible, which we eat every day. But most of the items or ingredients showing here in these pictures are raw in nature. I know I can eat, but I rarely eat them in the raw form. But when I create a recipe out of all these ingredients, I can immediately get a sense of something like liking or disliking. If I like this recipe, I will feel very amused, because I can sense something is already registered into back of my memories, and if I have good memories, I will immediately show a response. If I see a recipe which I highly dislike, I will immediately give a response like a disgust or something I am not appreciating. Similarly, if I see something which is like an image of a slice of lemon, immediately it will give a spark into my brain, because I can quickly associate that lemon is tangy, sparky, or something very sharp, or something very pungent. If I see an image of chilies, I can immediately relate, my brain will immediately respond to it like something which is very fierce, hot, spicy. These are all the responses, like whenever we see an image of people coming together, or they are bonding together, we can immediately relate to the image that there is a feeling of belongingness. Such examples can always give us some pre-decided notions, or something like our responses, how we are going to respond to different situations. And this is all because of senses. Senses are registered, they are created by our sense organs, and they work together to create a certain kind of response. This process of response created by human body through different sense organs creates a lot of feelings. So senses are defined as a way that the body perceives external stimuli. With whatever we take as an external input, it could be a sound, it could be a smell, it could be a taste, immediately our sense organs will respond to it. And sense organs responds in a manner that if it is known to us, we will have a familiar response. If it is unknown to us, we will have more surprise in terms of our response. Sensation is the physical process during which sensory organs respond to stimuli and provide data for perception. So as soon as we get a certain kind of input, for example, if we touch something which is very hot, immediately our skin will tell us that it is hot, we should not touch it again. If we get a very pleasant smell, immediately our nose and brain will tell us that something is very pleasant around us. So sensation is one driver which will give an immediately response to something which has been presented to us. All of us know that there are 5 senses. They are touch, smells, hearing, taste, and sight. Each one of these senses is fine-tuned to our brain. They immediately, as soon as we get some response, they send some signals to our brain. Then brain in reciprocation will process them, and it will send back to the organ. So as soon as we encounter with something new, we will generate certain feelings. A feeling is an expression of emotion. Whenever we touch, we encounter anything new, for example a product, immediately our brain, our eyes will respond to it, and we will immediately have a sense of liking or disliking that product. We can make an opinion even without using that product, even without buying that product, without just seeing. We can make a first opinion. Feelings are an important because they are largely responsible for our entire experience of life, from our childhood till our present age. With the help of different senses, we create to register a lot of feelings, and every time we encounter something similar, our brain goes to that memory and it tries to relate with that kind of experience. So if something which has already happened to us in a previous part of our life, we have a stored memory of that experience, and obviously we will have certain feeling about it. If I have already heard a beautiful piece of music, if I go through it again, I can really respond to it that I like it or I don't like it. So it is our feelings that determine whether we are happy or sad or content or frustrated about something. Again, if we come back to the senses, we have 5 senses. First one of that is sight. The sight, our eyes have the ability to perceive images. They take visual inputs from surrounding in daytime or night, and they perceive and take all the visual elements, they process it, send it to the brain, again brain do the further processing, and it can relate to a pre-stored memory, and we can generate a certain kind of response, like we are something which is seen by our eyes is known to us, or something which is very new to us, and immediately we will have a according feeling. Whenever we hear something, a sound, we can immediately tell that it is likable, it is not likable, it is loud, it is not audible. It is something, if I hear a sound in a new language, I can only interpret the sound, but I cannot interpret the meaning of that language. Touch. So whenever we hug somebody, we touch some surfaces like cold or hot. Whenever we touch a very rough surface, our brain will immediately give a response that a surface touch is good or bad. It can be said in the terms of smell also. Our mind can immediately respond through our nose, which can detect scents from air, chemicals, fragrances, flowers, recipes, and we can immediately make an opinion whether we like the scent or not. Similarly, the taste, which is most important part of senses, because we make a lot of opinion about what we eat every day, whether it is salty, sweet, sour or bitter. All these 5 senses play a very unique role in receiving the signals, and ultimately they create a lot of responses. So what all these senses really do? Human sensory system affects on both. On one side it works on cognition of our memory, it also works on the emotional response of the human beings. Cognition can be understood like something which is registered to our memory. Whenever we meet or encounter a new experience, we keep registering sense or emotion or feeling about that into our brain. So something which we see first time, probably it is like a surprise. Something which we see second time or multiple time, our memory keeps starting or registering an emotion or feeling associated with that product or that service, and every time we meet the same product, we can easily respond to that product due to our cognition. This is how our cognition works. And emotions are obviously, they are always response to the feelings. So if we like something, our emotions are good. If we don't like something, our emotions are not so good about that experience. All these emotional processes allows a quick action from our brain. So what are the emotions? Because we have been talking about design, then we have started a journey of senses and feelings. Now we are talking about emotions. What emotions play an important role while we make a design? looks good or not good to us. There are basically 6 emotions, and every time we have certain kind of sense we and feelings, we generate our brain generates certain kind of emotions around that. So out of these 6 emotions, I can define them as like happiness is one of the most important and positive side of emotion. Whenever we meet someone whom we know, like our old friend, whenever I eat something which I like a lot, my favorite recipe, or if somebody gives me a gift, or anything which gives me a pleasant feeling, a sense of well-being, a sense of joy or gratification, or it gives me a sense of satisfaction, makes me happy. So happiness is basically a positive expression. Just reverse to that, if I am not happy, if I am not feeling good, if I am highly disappointed with something, if I am not interested, or if someone has lost hopes, or they have a very bad mood about an incident happened to them, they will feel very sad. If I lose something, or if I have feeling of losing something which I like a lot, I will feel highly sad. Sadness is the opposite expression to happiness. Fear can be defined as an emotional response to something which is related to threat, or maybe an unpleasant experience, or meeting an accident, or losing something. The feeling of fear always has a lot of anxiety and negativity associated with it. So let's take the next emotion, which is disgust. The sense of revulsion can originate from a number of things, like if I encountered something which is a bad taste, or unpleasant smell, or unpleasant sight, if I see a picture or a scene which is not looking good to me, will obviously create a sense of disgust into my brain. After disgust, the next emotion is anger. Anger, as I can, all of you know that something when we are in the state of feeling of hostility, agitation, frustration, when we see things are not happening as per our wish, or something like a extremely negative happened to us, that brings a lot of anger and anxiety into our mood. So next expression or emotion is surprise. Surprise is a feeling of something like a psychological response to an expression of something very unexpected happened to us. Like, so if we meet a very old friend after years, we get a very positive surprise, we feel very happy. If we get something lost, we have a negative surprise, because we were not expecting to lose that favorite thing associated to us. So why we are talking about lot of emotions and senses when we are especially talking about design? What all makes us connect emotions, senses and feelings when we are talking about design? So everything around us is perceived by our senses, and every sense creates a certain kind of emotion. These emotions are ultimately responsible to like and dislike, as we were saying in the beginning of this presentation, like why we need to learn about how to like and how to dislike. The designers who are able to create a product which generates positive emotions are very successful in creating a positive user response. If a designer has learned to create a positive user experience, they are able to create emotive design, because their designs will be highly liked by the end users. Designers in professional world, or when they are serving as a professional, they work on 3 part of user behavior. Even when a product which is been still in the process of development in a studio, which is going to be launched after a year or 2 or 3 into the market, how designers work on a product so that it will be acceptable by the users. So ideally designers work on 3 cognition level of a product or a system or a service. Like one is visceral, second one is behavioral, and third one is reflective response. I'll come to that later, but ultimately by doing this, designers create positive association with a product and brand. So whenever we go to the market, and we always love to buy a product from a brand which is highly popular or which we have already bought. So by doing this, designers create a long-term associations with a product by making a good product again and again and again. This will also establish a brand into the market, and by doing so, these brands will be highly liked by a lot of users. Not only for the first time buyers, it will also be for the repetitive buyers who keep buying the products from the same brands. So if designers and companies have learned to create a product while it is still in the process of design through visceral, behavioral, reflective, cognition approaches, they will ultimately be able to deliver a successful product into the market. Let's understand. So visceral cognition level works when designers think about the first response of the user towards a product. It is like whenever we see a new product, our brain will automatically tell us what its product would be, how it is going to be used. So a neat and clean product design suggests ease of use of the product. For example, whenever we see a mug or a cup, we know that how to hold it, because the shape, the design, the form of the product will ultimately tell us how to hold this product. So it is very easy, like it is a behavioral first response to the product. We may ultimately like or dislike the mug because of various reasons, but as soon as we see a mug, we know how to hold it. In behavioral response, users subconsciously evaluate how our design helps us to achieve their goals. So when ultimately user buy a product and they bring the product to home, they ultimately know very well like how to use that product because they have been doing it from long time. So for example, a knife, whenever we design a knife or we bring a knife to our home, we know that how to hold it from the handle side or from the blade side while cutting or slicing the vegetables. So our subconscious brain will automatically tell us how or what is the right way to use a product. If designers can at the time of design make a study about this behavioral response of the product, their product success will be really high in the market. The third and most important thing is the reflective cognitive response, which designers must understand when they are designing a new product, because after encountering a product design, users will consciously judge the products about its performance and benefits repetitively. Like every time they use the product, they will either like or they will either dislike the product more and more. And this kind of habit is very common for the users, because if they are using a product for a long time, they will generate a very positive association with the product, even if it is very old, like something like our old chappals or sleepers. So designers, if they have learned this art of working on cognition in terms of response, in terms of identifying through visceral cognition, in terms of their behavior while operating a product, in terms of a product, or maybe the continuous liking or disliking of the product, then they can make the amendment into their design, and then they can test their designs, and then they can make a very successful product. So this is all about creating a good design, or about creating a good user experience design. So ultimately, as a designers, we focus on users' needs in their wishes or desires while we create a product or a service. It is always logical that the functionality of the design should help users to achieve their goals very effectively and efficiently while using the product. So if a user find it very easy to use a product, they will ultimately like the product. But this is how if the product is been liked by the user while using, they will ultimately have a positive response for the product. This is a fact that emotional design of a product or service affects its success, and this is the key or bottom line for a good product design. let's see some examples of good products when they ultimately makes us happy as a user. So whenever I visit a market, and if I see a billboard of a restaurant and hotel, and if the logo or the font is designed nicely and neatly, I will like the presentation even from without going to the particular cafe or restaurant, and I will intend to go and try the restaurant from the inside. This is the power of good communication. On other side, if I see a product like a Bluetooth speaker, if it is easy to my hands, if the design is beautiful, if it is not having sharp corners or edges which can probably hurt my hands, if it is easy, good looking, smooth, gentle to my hands, I will have a like for the product. This example can take more things into inclusion from the following images. There is a poster of a movie. The poster includes all the characters beautifully into one image, and users, when they see the poster, they can immediately make an opinion about if they have a favorite actor into the movie, what type of star cast is going to be, what is the theme of the movie going to be, and as soon as they see the poster, they can make an opinion whether they are going to watch this movie or not. So a beautiful poster can communicate a lot about in very short, only through a single visual page, about the character and narrative of the movie through the visual presentation. A good looking person who has worked on his physique and body could be easily identified as an attractive person by the society because he has worked on his looks, his physiques thoroughly, and ultimately we can call the person looks very attractive. So presentation makes a lot of change in the reception and perception and acceptance of the users towards any design. It could be a good looking recipe which even just by look or smell creates a high appeal or desirability to consume the recipe. It could be a nicely decorated corner of a house where people would like to sit, relax and feel good about that house. It could be an intricate carved piece of jewelry which a craftsman has created with lot of ornamentation, detailing, precision and beauty and arrangement of elements of design. It will ultimately be creating a high amount of pleasure to buy such a product. It could be a very easy going product like a smooth chair which looks very comfortable. Even just by sight I can make an opinion that it is going to be very comfortable when I am going to sit on the surface of this chair because it looks very comfortable, easy, convenient for me. It can be the same example can go to the lot of things which comes into the domain of design. They can be textile design, they can be graphic design, and if all the designs fulfill the purpose of making a design pleasurable or a meaningful message can be generated through a design, it can ultimately lead to the user satisfaction. So in the end, we can say that every designer is responsible to make the things around us better and easy. It is not only about aesthetics, it is all about experience. So design is a profession of looking at the process through problems and solving them in a creative manner for the end users and ultimately end users delight. So I will just quickly summarize in the end. We have talked about design, which takes clues from both the creative part and emotional part of art. It also takes logical part of problem solving approach of science. Design is not only about making things beautiful, but it is always about creating a user's interaction and user response more natural and more complete. Design process we have gone through, which is like about getting a design brief, identifying the problems, doing a research, creating first level of ideations, making them more mature, then finally selecting the final design solution based on users or process or manufacturability, then developing it to the next level and then reaching it to the production level. We also had a small discussion about logical side of design, and we also had a creative side of design. So while on logical side we stated that design is more research and knowledge oriented, it is more controlled, as a sequence of stages. On other side, on creative side, we have also understood that design works a lot of creativity and emotional part. It also work on judgment and common sense of the designers. We had a talk on senses, like how we take response from external world, how our brain processes it, how it creates feelings, how we generate the feelings of liking and disliking, and how ultimately this liking and disliking creates emotions around us. And ultimately all these senses, emotions and feelings come together and create a works on our cognition, which is always our first response, which is visceral response. It can be used understanding the function, which is behavioral response, and it is ultimately reflective response, where we keep using repetitively the same product because we like that product. Ultimately, all this process create a good design and good product experience, and we as a user like a product, and that's how it makes us design successful. Thank you very much.